So you're planning a corporate event and you want to capture some amazing content for things like sharing with your colleagues after the event, or it could be promotions content for your future event, or branding assets, or even social media content. But the problem is you're not really sure how to find someone you can trust, or when you do find someone, you're not really sure what questions you need to ask. Now, my opinion is if you do get in touch with a photographer or let's call it a content creator, that person should be able to walk you through simple steps on what you need to do to prep. How do you go about booking? What's their payment process? Do you need to pay 50% down of the overall cost, or do you just need to pay a small amount? And also what to expect on the day of the event, and what to expect post-event. For example, like turnaround time, what kind of style of theme do you want the stuff to be edited in? For example, I walk my client through what I call my 3-step onboarding process. So the first thing we talk about is I tend to just go over a very short introduction of myself, what I do, my background and things like that, just to give the customer a rough idea that I do have the ability to handle their project. We go over also the style of my content, the kind of style that I tend to create, just in case they haven't seen my work online, just to give them a rough idea of what to expect, just to make sure that we're a good fit. Then the second thing I do, I ask the client like what's their vision, what's their goal, their inspiration for the project. I also get some clarity on how they plan to use the content. I talk a little bit about session and the planning and coverage of the details. So for example, the number of attendees, like the location, and the session type. So for example, is it an event, portrait, event style? Is just to give me some more understanding and background on what the event is going to look like. Then I go on to packaging and pricing. So I then start talking about, I walk them through the package that I have available, just to give them a rough idea. I also talk a little bit about add-ons that I might have if they want to have like drones and things like that. Then I also set their expectations in terms of timelines, just to give them a rough idea how long the editing process is going to take, and turnaround time for deliverables. Now, I tend to keep these things high level just to make sure that I'm not overpowering the client too much. I also then walk them through my booking process. Just outline the booking steps that they need to go through, deposit requirements and things like that. I also go over like contracts, model release forms and things like that if that's necessary for this event. I do tend to do that for every event for behind the scenes content, because if I do want to reuse my behind the scenes content to promote my business in later on, then I have available model release forms to cover that, just to make sure I'm good. I then go over next steps, confirmation on what is going to happen once the content is ready for them, how I'm going to deliver it to them and things like that. So that's just like my step 1 phase. So let me just scroll up here. Then if the client is happy and they want to proceed, then I take them into my step 2, which is the project onboarding call. It could happen on the same call, or we could book another call. It's all up to the client. Each step kind of takes about 5 minutes to just run through them anyway. So my step 2, my onboarding call key questions is I start with like the start time of the event, when they're expecting people to start arriving and things like that. Then the location, I get more specific on the location. These are some buildings have specific entrance location, different from entrance location for regular staff. So I make sure that I'm clear on that. Event date and time, I get specific on that as well. The event theme, I get real specific on what their expectations are around the theme, what they're planning. So I come with a plan to kind of match the theme for the event. I also the event agenda, I try and get, if they do have one, I try and get an event agenda for the day, just to make sure that I know exactly what's going to happen when, so I can be in the right place, right time, and be ready and good to go to make sure I'm capturing the most important and key things for that day. I questioned them about special announcements, and what time is that likely to happen based on the agenda. Now, some people don't have an agenda, but they do have a rough idea of what time they're going to do special announcements and things like that, if there are going to be announcements. But I think that this is a key question to ask, to make sure that, because the customer might not mention that. Again, I just think it's my job to make sure that I get those information, or get the information out of the customer. Then I move on to event coordination and event contact. So the main coordinator for the event on the day, I want to make sure that I get that person's contact details, just to make sure that I am speaking directly to that person on the day. I don't want to bother the client. They should just carry on, enjoy their day, or they're probably going to have a lot more things going on. The last thing they want to do, or going to want to do, is to be speaking to me on that day for anything. I ask the customer, is there any specific or any special requests that they need from me? And I give them the chance to go through that as well. So I've got as much information as I can to move on to my final stage, which is the booking stage. So step 3 of my onboarding process is the booking stage. Booking stage is, I've already have all the information that I need. The client has now left a call. This is now post task that I do after the onboarding call. So one of the things I do first, immediately after the call with the client, I send the client a booking request for 50% of the booking fee. I like to know that my clients are serious, so whatever the cost is for the overall event, whatever I charge them for, I put that in a quote and I send them a request to pay 50% to secure the booking date for that event. I also send the client terms and conditions and my contract, just to make sure that we get that signed out. Now, that sometimes, if it's a small event, that sometimes is all in one, where I have the contract and then I have the 50% booking request fee is all in one page. I try and keep that to a one line if I can, just to make it easy for the client, so that they have as little as possible to do on their end in terms of paperwork. Then step 3 in my booking process, once the payment is confirmed, then I move on to booking the client into my calendar system, just to make sure that that is there, is visible, and it's not forgotten. And that is also done the same day, just after the call, just to make sure that everything is all booked in and I'm ready to go. Now, the final thing I do, while everything is fresh in my mind, I create a 1-pager shot list for that day, just to make sure I have everything noted down and documented under that client's folder. So as I get closer to the date, I then start filling in more of the gaps on more of what I want to do, just to bring the whole project to life. But I prefer to do that just after the call, just to make sure that when everything's fresh in my mind, to get it all down on paper, just to make sure that I'm not calling the client up to ask them ridiculous questions just before leading up to the shoot. The only thing I want to do, which I do a but I do like a follow-up call just before the event, like let's say like a month before or 2-3 weeks before, just to say, hi, it's John, just following up, just to make sure that everything is still fine, we're still all set for the event, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Just keep it super simple, just to let them know that you're still there, you're still on board. You haven't run off with their money or something, but just making sure that you're communicating with them, and that goes a long way. They love that. They like to know that, listen, I'm not having to chase this guy to make sure that he's going to be there and all that stuff, especially after paying him 50%. So I don't wait for that. I follow the client up 2 weeks, 3 weeks before just to make sure that they know that, everything's still good on my end anyway. Okay.